We're live. We have new sound. Unmute microphone. Camera not detected. Really? Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. I just need to figure out.
Front button. At one of these ends.
Thank you.
Okay.
So the reason I'm pausing is that I need to get the link for this thing and control room. What's happening?
Is there a camera on this?
Sorry, is what?
Is there a camera on this laptop?
No, I thought there was, and there isn't.
Yeah.
There was a camera the last time. Screen share. Chat. Okay.
If you like, we can go tether to the laptop.
I don't know.
I'm already tethered to my phone.
Yeah,
as
just
well.
just
Not really.
I wish I could figure out where the link is for this thing. We've got no viewers right now.
Well, that's the link, huh?
Yeah. Right. Copy. Back
Some
to.
people will be
I'm going to send a link to myself. Well, actually, maybe I can send it to the link.
The link, the link.
Send the link to the list. Okay. Okay, I'm just going to take this email and forward it to the list. Okay. And I was supposed to, Yannick was supposed to do the first talk, and he's not around. He's not logged in
Or it's not in the Hangouts yet.
in the Hangout yet. What I should do is go to the Perlmongers list and see what's going on. Okay, these guys are on standby. Okay. Let me go back to here. Oh, actually, I've got the. Okay, I'm just thinking I've got the link in my paste buffer. I want to paste it somewhere. So I'll just put it here, and then I'll see if I can type it in. Oh, we don't. We want a Hangout link. We don't want the.
They want the YouTube thing.
Okay, that's what we want. Here we go. Here we go. This one here. Edit. Basic info. Okay, but what is the link? Info and settings. Advanced settings. It's public, so you would think it would be there. Here we go. Twitter, I don't think I have. Live control. I'm not satisfied at all. Add stream.
I get the YouTube link down there. That's not what you want, I guess.
I don't know. I thought I'd figured this out the last time, and I want to press send, and the button is hidden by.
What do you call that?
Oh my God, I'm a terrible typist. Can you see if it's one of our folks? Oh no, it's the janitor.
Oh, no, there's someone else too. Possibly one of our folks.
Ah, there we go. 5 viewers. Greetings, everyone. I hope you can hear me okay. It looks like we have 5 viewers. I apologize once again. This has been an audio-visual disaster. I'm hoping that Yannick can hear me and can join the Hangout and start doing his presentation. It says we have 4 viewers, but Yannick is not connecting. Oh, here we go.
I've got 5 viewers now.
Okay, I guess they got the first link. No. Okay. Not live streaming. Stream now. Hangouts. Thought we did this already.
Would it need to be the hangouts for someone else to present?
Okay, this is the Hangout here, right?
Yeah, and it says there are 8 viewers.
Great. Now, the only thing I don't know is how the heck,
You find out who the viewers are. How do you
We're
how
not-
do you hand over?
It will not, there's a share button. Oh, sorry, the share screen.
if either of you know what the heck, I don't know where the heck the link is. Is it this link here, up here?
Can you send me the link and maybe I'll try to just go see if I can find a join?
I guess I'm confused because I don't remember having this much trouble getting the Hangout link before.
Does the down in the bottom right hand corner where it says links, does that have anything?
Yeah, well, it's got
Oh, it's got the
it's a YouTube
YouTube.
link,
Yeah, it's
but
for
that's not
use.
helping me. I need the
No.
Hangout link,
Yeah, I know.
and I wish I could find the Hangout link, and it's killing me here. 'Cause meanwhile, it's like we spent half an hour and I've got nothing done, and it's driving me crazy. Okay, let me try this one.
Could be as well.
I'm sorry, what?
Could you add me as well to the?
Sure. What?
Number 2.
Number 2.
You are?
Here,
All right.
why don't you type it in? Don't do that.
Yeah, so it works for me, and I joined.
Okay.
And but for the other people here, doesn't say.
Oh. There you are.
Yep.
Look, it's you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I seem to remember the last time it was there's Todd. All right. Hallelujah. I'm sorry, what?
Oh, never mind. I'll say can't use my camera as well.
Yeah. Thanks for your patience, everyone. I'm just going to wait for a few more people to join, including our first presenter, Yannick. I don't know if you can hear me or not. Thanks for your patience, everyone. Including our first presenter, Yannick.
Oh, that took a while.
Oh, and there's
There
Yannick.
we go.
Awesome, look at that.
Finally.
You can't see me. Okay. That is a good question. Will we be able to hear them? We should.
Yep, can you hear me?
Oh no, I don't want that. I want settings over here.
Okay, I can hear you, but can anybody hear me?
Sorry, what?
Anyone read lips? Good.
Ooh. Oh, excellent. Yeah, I can hear you, but can anybody hear me? Oh my, I just hear. Yeah, I hope it's not delayed that much.
A little bit, Yannick.
Hope it's not delayed that much. Oh god. Yeah, there's a delay of 20 seconds there. And I'm typing on the Google chat such that we can have more direct communication. If anybody can hear me whenever my lips actually move, please say so, such that I know that it's kind of in sync. If anybody can hear me whenever my lips actually move, please say so, such that I know that it's kind of in sync.
Yeah, okay. This is Alex. I really apologize for the latency. It's hilarious. It's like the 1970s or something like that. Yannick, please go ahead and we'll just have to make do.
Okay. So can you hear me in direct, or there's still a 10-second lag there?
I'm sorry, what?
I think it might be feeding back. Like,
Okay, so let me mute myself.
Okay, people on the different places report in the chat that they can hear me in real time. So if that's the case, yeah, let's try to do it. So, okay, I will begin to talk and we'll stop whenever somebody tell me to, but let's try. So first, let's share my screen. Let's switch to the slides. Yeah, perfect. And okay, right now I don't see anybody. So if somebody does not see the slides, let me know. But otherwise, so yeah, welcome to this presentation. I just wanted to show a little bit what Task Warrior can do and the little plugin system that I implemented to help with it. So yeah, we have 30 minutes to make 4. So let's go for it. So what I'm going to do is first do a little introduction of why you could be interested by Task Warrior. Then I will try to convince you that it's a pretty good tool. And then after that, I'm going to show you the plugin system that I wrote such that you can actually use hooks and that kind of stuff. So yeah, motivation. I would love to say that I'm an expert about task management and I'm good at it. The truth is that I suck a lot. And that's why I try to find tools that are going to help me to actually get the task that I'm doing in order. So a super long time ago, I read Getting Things Done. That's a book that probably most of you are familiar with. It's out there, and that was a not too bad book. Basically, there's 2 takeaways that I took from it. First, it's a good idea to just dump all the tasks and things that you want done somewhere. That somewhere is not important as long as it's one place where you just brain dump all the stuff and that you after that can parse and come back to. And the second thing is to keep things as simple as possible, because as soon as it gets complex, you will not be doing them, so on and so forth. The first idea really stuck with me. The second one, well, not so much. So, of course, the first thing that I did was to begin to look for the perfect tool that will actually help me to get all my tasks in order. So, yeah, I tried a lot of them. And after trying quite a lot, I came to realize that anything that is GUI based, at least for me, does not really do the trick. There's a couple of reasons for that. One of them is that in between the, oh yeah, I'm thinking of something, and the moment where I put it down, there's too many steps. I mean, usually if you have to open either the program or open your browser, you have to wiggle your mouse to go and click on the right things. And yes, so it's a lot of work, or rather it's a lot of time that you have to spend to actually record your different things. More importantly for me, there's a lot of tools. There's a lot of good tools. There's not a single one of them that is actually exactly what I want. And I'm kind of OCD that way. There's always that one feature that I will love to see there that is not there, and that push me to try one more tool just in case. And just because I'm an old codger, all those GUI solutions or browser solutions that are in the cloud, I feel that my task should be on my own computer, or at least on my network, if only because that cut a couple of milliseconds each time that I look at them and I parse them. So of all the GUIs, though, I must say that there's one that came pretty close to do the trick, and that was HiveMinder. That was actually made by Best Practical, which is a company behind RT, the bug tracker that CPAN use. Yeah, HiveMinder went down a couple of years ago. If you're interested, the code is still on GitHub. So if you ever want to try to spin an instance on your own machine, you can actually do that. But yeah, that's for the UIs. So yeah, I began to look more and more at CLI solutions, mostly because I'm a shell jockey. I just live in terminals. I love CLI tools because, yeah, you can basically pipe stuff, you can grep, you can write scripts that are going to automate things. You can have autocompletes if your shell is nice enough. So yeah, basically that's just the way that I roll. And this is where TaskWarrior entered the picture. So TaskWarrior is basically a CLI program called Task. It's written in C++. It's extremely flexible. It has a lot of knobs. There's a lot of features. It's going to show, it's going to do a lot of things. And also something that is very important to me, you can customize it. There's mechanisms for hooks, and there's ways to change the behavior so that it's going to do exactly what you want. So yeah, this is what we're going to talk about tonight. So basically, TaskWarrior is fairly like VI in the way that you can start small, you can use a small subset of the features, and you can just grow and use more and more and go more and more in depth and use other features. And yeah, the learning slope just keep going and going and going. First, let's do the basic stuff. Let's just create tasks, look at them, and close them. To create tasks, fairly easy. What you do is you do task add, and then you put text that is going to be the description of your task. So for example, here I want to write a presentation for tonight. So task add, write TaskWarrior press for Toronto.pm. And there we go. That's all you have to do. Now you have your first task. Now, if you want to see them, you just do task list, and you're going to have a list of your task. So far, there's no high-level sorceries. You're going to see the description of your task, when you created it, an ID that you can use to reference to it, and an urgency that we're going to talk about later on. Once you did your task, you can close it. So you just say that I'm done with task number 1, and task number 1 will be labeled as done, and it will never bother you again. You can also decide that actually task 1 I will not do for whatever reason, and you can say that task 1 is going to be deleted, and then it's going to be marked as not done, and it's going to also go into the forever gone bin. So with those 3 commands or 4 commands already, you can keep track of your task. Now we're getting into the more interesting stuff. So first, something that is fairly cool, you can undo things that you did. So modification on task, or for example, here we deleted a task. We might have second thoughts and say that, well, actually, I'm going to write that presentation so you can undo what you did, and it's going to tell you that, okay, those were the values that you had before. This is the last change. Do you want to revert that? And it's going to do it. After that, now we add a description for a task. We can add some more juicy metadata. First, tags. Anything these days need tags. So yeah, you can add tags to, and you can add as many tags as you want to your task. So for example, for that first task here, I can say that, well, this is labeled as a talk and it has to do with Toronto. And there we go. You can also assign a project. So I can say that this task is actually part of my talks project, and it's going to assign it to that specific project, and it's going to, after that, tells me that, oh yeah, by the way, the project talk has that many tasks, and you completed so many of them. You can assign priorities. By default, you have 3.5 priorities. You have high, medium, low, and no priorities at all. If you want, you can implement a totally different system. You can add priorities. You can, yeah, basically that's one of the things that you can customize to anything that you want. You can put things that have to do with timelines. For example, deadlines. Here, for example, for this talk, I had a pretty hard deadline of tonight. So I can say that this task is due for the 22nd, and is going to, again, record that as part of the information related to the task. And of course, here I'm putting 2018-02-22, which is a perfectly decent date. But it's not something that is super roll off the tongue. Doesn't really roll off the tongue. So TaskWarrior actually allow for the specification of time that is extremely flexible. So instead of saying the 22nd, I could say that this task is due in 4 days. Or I could say that it's due for next Thursday, or the 22nd of this month, or the end of the week. Or I could get even more funky and say that actually it's due for the end of the month minus 43 hours for whatever reason. So there's a lot of different keywords for all the different times. You have the start and end of the week, the month, the year. And you can also do a calculation that add dates and whatnot. So that way, extremely flexible. Make it easy to just jot down the due dates. In addition of putting deadlines, you can also say that those tasks cannot be started, or don't show me that task until a specific date. Again, here, for example, I procrastinate until the very last day. So instead of being reminded every single day that I have to make a presentation, I could say that, okay, just wait until the 21st before beginning to tell me that I have to do that. And it's going to still have the task in its list of tasks that are due in the future, but it's also going to know that it has to hide it until that specific date. You can also add dependencies. For example, again, I'm going to write my slides, I'm going to make my presentation, and after that, I'm going to email the slides to the group. And here I want to record that I have to send those slides, but that is going to be blocked until the first task is done. So again, you can put depends and you have a task number. So with all those metadata pieces of information, you can pretty much define your different tasks. Now it will be nice, of course, to be able to look at those. So first, you can look at all the details of a single task by doing task info and then the number of the task. And here, up to now, I put the number of the task, but you can actually put the part of the description of the task. So I could just have put task Toronto info, and it will have found the only task that has to do with Toronto, the PM, and will have printed the same thing. But yeah, it's going to show the information for that task. So it's going to have the ID, description, status, project, when it was created, all the tags that we put manually, couple of tags that Task Warrior managed by itself. So it's going to know that, oh yeah, that is actually due this month. It's something that is not done yet. It has been tagged, so on and so forth. The ID that we've been using so far is the ID that is being created for us humans. For the system itself, there's a UUID that you can also use to describe that task in a unique manner. And you have the priority here, and you have the urgency. The urgency is one of those very nice things that Task Warrior has, because instead of listing things by order of priority or alphabetically or any other ways, what it does is that it calculates an urgency that is based on many factors that has to do with the task. And for example, here, it's going to take into consideration that the task is attached to a project. So since it has that description, it must be slightly more important. It has one tag. So again, that boosts a little bit its urgency. It has a due date, so that make it much more urgent. And that due urgency is going to increase as we get close to the deadline. It's also going to take into consideration the priority and if it's waiting or not. And the very nice thing is that each of those different factors come with coefficients, and it's all configurable. So if, for example, you decide that in your system, everything is based on deadlines, you can make the due coefficient much more important. If you want to have a system where you have high, medium, and low, and high is super important, medium is not very important, and low is much less important, you can put coefficient of 100, 10, and 1. And you can fudge that, and you can modify that as much as you want, and just come up with the perfect scheme that is going to fit your specific way of doing things. Oh yeah, and with the info, you also have all the modifications that were brought to that task in the past. So yeah, this is what I was talking about, the urgency. And of course, usually you want to look at more than one task, so you can do task list, and that's going to list all the tasks that are actually either ready or pending, so basically not done yet. But typically, what you want to do is, okay, show me the list of tasks that I can actually do something about, and that's where task next enter the picture. So that's going to only show you the tasks that are not waiting, that are not blocked. So basically, things that you can act on right now. You can also have a lot of fancy reports. For that, I'm going to switch here. So task can show you a calendar, and it's going to show you the due date. It can show you a burn down of how many tasks you actually are adding each day or each week or each month, and how many you're actually achieving. You can have a history per month. If you love stats, you can know how many tasks in total, how many tags you have, what is the size of your database, so on and so forth. And do I have anything else there? Well, I didn't put anything else here, but if you look at the different commands that task has, there's much more reports that it provides. Something else that it has that is very nice is context. So basically, so far when we do a list of tasks, we see all the tasks that we have, but very often we have tasks that are based on different contexts. For example, you have all the things that you have to do that are related to your work, and you don't want to see those in the evening. Likewise, you have, for example, all your projects that are more open source and that you do at night, and those you don't want to see them during the day because there's nothing you can do about it. So what you can do is to define context. So those are basically queries that are going to say that, okay, all the tasks that I have to do, for example, in my case, has to do with Infinity Interactive, or have to do with the super special project Foo, and that are due before 1 month. This is going to be the context defined as work. So whenever I just want to see those tasks, I do task context work, only see them. When it's the end of the day and now I want to return to my usual program, I just remove the context. So that way you can have filters that are super versatile, that can define when you go shopping, when you're at home, when you just want to have tasks that are small tasks because you only have 30 minutes. So you can basically do a lot of things there. And now there's the customization. But just before I go there, I'm just going to quickly look at the chat to see if anybody is asking questions. No, so far so good. Excellent. So customization. TaskWire put all the tasks in a directory, in your own directory called .task. And it has files that are kind of pseudo-JSON that are fairly easy to parse and to modify. However, don't do that, because TaskWire is actually nice enough to have a task export that is going to export all those things in a very nice JSON format. And on the other side of the spectrum, it's going to import a task with exactly the same format. So basically, you can interact with the inner database, which in truth is only a text file, using those two commands. And that way, when TaskWire actually upgrade and change their format a little bit, you will not see it. You will not have to worry, because those commands are actually going to take care of the small details. So just to provide an example, I wanted to have the histogram of all the urgencies that are related to the active tasks that I have. So what I did was to export all the tasks, pipe that through GK. And if you don't use that tool, this is wonderful to basically grab stuff into JSON data structure. So basically, I take of all the tasks that I have, the urgency, and I pipe that into a Python program called histogram that does exactly that, show you an histogram of all the values. So, yep, basically you can do that. You can do anything else that you want, because, yep, you get JSON formatted task, and after that, what you do is all up to you. But even better, if you want to change the behavior of TaskWire, you have hooks. So I don't know if you ever use the hooks that are available in Git, but those are very similar. Basically, you have a directory called hooks, and there you can have 4 types of hooks. You can have hooks that are going to be run at when TaskWire is being launched, whenever a new task is being added, when any task is being modified, and whenever TaskWire exit. And the way that it works is that it's going to look in that directory. It's going to look at all the different scripts or programs that begin with on launch blah 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 or on add blah blah blah, and it's going to run them all. and it expects that each of them is an executable program or script, so they can be in C, they can be in Python, they can be in Perl, they can be in whatever you want. Typically, they are just very short shell scripts, but since we have all that nice JSON thing, and that I always have the need to have helper functions and things like that. That's why I created that TaskWire Kusari Gamma plugin system, and it's going to leverage those things. So that will be the second part of my talk. But just before I get there, I'm going to go back to the Hangout and just see if anybody has questions or anything having to do with TaskWire at large. So any question, you have 10 seconds. Okay, I guess not. Oh,
Hang on, hang on, hang on,
Okay.
hang on.
I think they can unmute themselves. Maybe.
Sorry, guys, I had everybody unmuted. I had everybody muted because every time there was a slight noise, Google Hangouts would pan away from the speaker. So I unmuted everybody.
excellent. Okay, so anybody? Questions? No? Ready for the second part?
Sure.
Okay, let's go. So basically, with that plugin system, there's two types of things that you can do. You can just modify the behaviors of commands that are already there, or you can also add new, brand new task commands. You can add brand new commands. So at first, let's look at something that just modify the current behavior. Something that TaskWire does is something that you can do with task is to say that a task is active or not. So that's useful when you want to say that, okay, I'm supposed to paint the deck and I just began to do it, but I'm not done yet. So yeah, for example, here we can see the terminal that I started test number 1, I started test number 2, I stopped test number 1. Now, something that I use TaskWire for is to remember what task I did for the office, and we bill for those tasks. So I always only want to have one task active at any given time. Because we don't want to double bill. So I wanted to add a plugin that will make sure that whenever I actually start a task, it would stop any task that was already active before. So I would like to say that this is the whole plugin, but it's not. It actually also needs the one at the end to say that this is a module and everything is fine. But everything else is actually there. So let's see what it does. First, we name the package. No big surprise. We say it's a plugin. I called it single active. Everything there is using Moo. I went for Moo instead of Moose just to give a little bit more performance because those are scripts that are being run each time that I run that task command. And basically I say that, okay, this is a hook. It's going to be executed on launch. And what it's going to do is that it's going to, at launch, say that is the command that you're running start. If not, then I won't bother. That's not interesting. But if it's you're running start, what I'm going to do is look if there's any active and pending task that is there. And if so, I'm going to run task stop that command. So very simple logic, nothing complex, but yep, there we go. It works. So now if we go to something a little more complex and something that also implement a new command. So what I would like to do is be able to put goals or attach goals to different tasks. So for example, I want to read the Getting Things Done book, and I want to keep track of how many pages I read so far. So what I would like to do is to say that, okay, I'm going to add that task, and I'm going to specify a goal, 323 pages. And after that, I want to be able to say that on that task, I made some progress. I actually added 100 units toward my goal, and the command will record that in the task, and will also display a nice little progress bar that is going to give me the nice feeling that I'm getting toward my end goal. So now let's see what or how we can implement that. Well, that one is a little more involved, but not by much, you will see. So first thing, again, we create the package. We call it plugin command progress. Something that is nice is that Kusarigama figure out what is the name of the command just based on the package name. So we don't have to do any kind of magic. It's going to know that task progress is going to call this guy. It's again a plugin. It's going to do things when we add new task. It's going to do things when we modify task, and it's going to do things also when we invoke the command progress. It's also going to add a UDA, which is a user-defined attribute that is going to be a new attribute that you can assign to any task. Well, I said one, actually it's adding two. It's going to add a goal. And here I just put a little description that the goal is going to be a quantifiable goal assigned to the task, and or current progress. So when we add and when we modify a task, it's going to call those two functions. Actually, we're going to do the same thing in both cases. So onAdd is just a glorified alias for onModify. And onModify is going to do a couple of things. It's going to look if the task has any goal. If there's no goals, then, well, it does not actually has anything to do. It has nothing to do with progress. So yeah, we skip, we don't do anything. If there's a goal, we're going to also look at the progress that we have stored against that task. We're going to clean from the description the current progress that we have. We're going to update it with the brand new progress. And then we're going to return the modified task, and the rest of the pipeline is going to take care of setting it properly. Now, when we run it as a command, so for example, if I run task GTD, is going to find the right task in the database. Progress, I just read 36 pages, and I put the note that, oh yeah, that was a good chapter. So what it's going to do is going to first look at the task that we pass to the command. It's going to, again, make sure that it has a goal. And if it has no goal, it's going to complain because, yeah, the progress command does not compute and has nothing to do. If it has a goal, it's also going to look at the arguments that are after the command. So that will be the plus 36 good chapter. It's going to figure out what is the numbers at the front. And for that, I have a good old regular expression. And for all the tasks, so far, we've only been using that for a single task, but it could be on many tasks at the same time. So for each of them, we have to do the same thing, so which is to update the progress with what we just passed as an argument, take the goal of that task, calculate what is the progress so far, do the little progress bar that we saw a couple of slides ago, save into the task the new progress, add an annotation if we actually provided one, And if our progress actually go above and beyond our goal, just automatically mark the task as being completed and save the task, and up, we're done. So yeah, so basically, again, I put everything that this plugin actually has. That's part of the plugins that are part of the distribution, so you can go and look at it. I think the only part that I actually removed to make it fit in the slides is the one at the end, the documentation, and the use trick and use warning at the top. But everything else is actually the code that you're seeing here. So as you can see, it's pretty compact. It's not too complicated. So yeah, and as I think a final example, dependencies. So I already said that you can put dependencies between tasks, which is already awesome. So this is pure task query without any fudging. So you can create a task, then you say that, okay, I'm going to add a second task, and that one depends on the first one. And I'm going to add a third one, and that one, actually, the one that I did before depends on this one. So you can do it, but it does not read or doesn't read very well. What I will like to do is to be able to say that, okay, I'm going to add the first task, and then think about it and said, oh yeah, and actually after that, I have to do that other thing. And then think about it a little bit more and said, oh yeah, and after I do that, I actually, or before I do that, I actually have to do the other thing. So I want two commands, and after and but before. Both of them are, again, fairly easy to implement. So if we take an example that after I read that book, I want to write a review, the plugin is still, again, to be a command because it's the command and after. This one is only dealing with the command itself, is not looking at tasks when they are added or updated. And when the command happens, what I do is that I look at what was the task before. And if I don't actually pass a number or a query here, I'm just going to assume that I meant the task that I created just before, so latest. And I'm going to simply create a new task with add and use everything that I passed here, so write review, and just say that, oh, and by the way, that depends on whatever was specified before. And then just, yep, task add, you're done. But before is pretty much the same procedure. The only difference is that since the relationship is inversed and task query, you can, with task query, you can put depends, but you cannot put reverse dependencies. In this case, I basically have to add the new task before and then modify the other task to say that that second task actually depends on the task that I just created. So yeah, so that's very quickly how to make plugins using the Kusarigama. If you want to know more, Paul Fenwick right now is giving a couple of task warrior presentations at different conferences. He's very good. The link that I have here is a YouTube recording of one of his presentations. So if you want to actually listen to somebody who knows more what he's doing than I do, go and watch him. Brian Wisty has a couple of blog entries where he is learning about task warrior and is finding there. It's very easy to read, and there's a lot of good piece of information that you can get from there. And just before I stop here, I'm going to show a very last thing, if it actually works. So yeah, I did all of that to be able to work in the CLI. But sometimes it's useful to have a UI. So I went full circle and I used the ability of NeoVim to have a terminal and be able to talk to different clients, to basically have my VI talk to a Perl server that takes the information from Task Warrior, and if it's going to work, yep, and basically show me a table that has all the tasks that I have to do with a bunch of different commands and aliases for showing the thing, showing on ordering tasks by priorities, showing only tasks that have specific tags, basically giving me a tabular view of all my tasks where and also I can mark things as being done, and it's going to basically Vim is going to ask Perl to ask task warrior to close those tasks, and it's going to be all done in the background. So yeah, this is also available on CPAN. It's under my NeoVim client, so NeoVim RPC, and yeah. So in a nutshell, that's what I had in terms of slides. Is there any question?
Sorry, is that the end of your presentation?
Yep. Yep, of course, if anybody wants to see something, I have the shell right here, so yeah, I can go on for probably a couple of more hours, but yeah, officially all the slides have been gone through.
Okay, that's great. Thanks very much for that, Yannick.
No, my pleasure.
Now Michael is going to give us a presentation. Michael, take it away.
All right. So I'll just share, I guess, my presentation here. It says I'm sharing my screen, but am I muted then, or okay? So my presentation deals with search engines and how do we measure the quality of thereof. So at my current job, I've been tasked with building a search engine. So the project goal is to build an internal search engine for a large organization. And it involves crawling multiple targets, multiple internal systems, such as various content management systems, social network, wikis, Confluence, and various types of sites. Now, we want to implement a simple Google-like interface, and obviously users should be able to find whatever they are looking for, regardless of the target from which we're sourcing data. So lots of challenges. We have to deal with authentication, authorization, which can vary from the various targets that we're trying to crawl. Crawling is not as simple as crawling the web. The systems are not built for crawling. They often use have a lot of dynamic content, a lot of JavaScript, so they don't adhere to any proper web standards. So it's often quite a nightmare. Obviously, you have security and privacy concerns and various organizational obstacles as expected. One of the other issues we had to deal with is how do we actually measure the quality of a search engine, and this is what this talk is about. Why do we even want to evaluate quality to begin with? It helps us make measurable incremental improvements to our search engine. So when we construct the search engine, we want to see that we're actually improving and not breaking any of our previous work. And we want to also naturally integrate that with quality assurance. So as we release the search engine and updates, make updates and add more data and change the query formula and various search engine analyzers, that we are not actually breaking what we've built. So ultimately, it helps us meet our user search expectations. And how do we do it? The high-level approach is you establish some kind of measurable baseline for the quality. Then you make changes to the search engine with the goal of improving that baseline, and you rinse and repeat. When you establish the baseline for quality, it doesn't mean that your search engine is great. It just means that you have some baseline, and you keep trying to improve until people are happy. So what makes for high-quality search? Basically, for search query, users should be able to find what they're looking for and find it quickly. Some ideal metrics for evaluating that is precision, or how relevant the results that are returned to the user, and recall, which is the fraction of the relevant results that are returned to the user for a query. Now, in theory, that's good, but applying that to a realistic scenario is more difficult, because you have a large volume of data in your search engine, but you don't really know what data is relevant to the user, and also you don't really know how many relevant results exist for a particular query. To resolve this, enter Square, a tool that we've developed, stands for Search Quality and Relevance Evaluator. It uses a very basic, simple methodology for evaluating quality. Essentially, to establish a quality baseline, we would run a search for a query, user query, and would get a bunch of results on the page. So each result, starting from the top, would be given a page position factor, and we would only be looking at n top results. At the moment, we're only looking at 5. So the first one would be given usually the highest position factor, and we would decrement the position factor for results that come lower. And also, we would manually examine each of the results, giving it a result quality rating. So, for instance, for canonical result, we would give a rating of 3. Some relevant results to the query would assign it a result quality rating of 2. A result that maybe links to a relevant result, it's a 1. And if it's completely irrelevant, then it's a 0. Given those two metrics, for which we multiply them for each result and sum them across the n top results that we're evaluating. So that's the basic idea, and it will gives us the ability to evaluate or measure the quantize metric for a particular query. I guess I was going to show a demo, but it's going to be mostly screenshots to be showing of a tool. So the schema is quite basic. I mean, we have a table to record the queries that we'll be getting from the search engine. Sorry, that will be running against the search. We'll be also recording the URLs, which will be the results, and we would have some kind of a table that relates the query URL tuples to the rating that we'll be manually assigning to them. I also have a couple of tables to keep track of the statistics. So here's an example of the data. Let's say we want to run a query internal search engine home. So we would run that query, and we would get a bunch of results back. And we would manually evaluate those results. We would record the URLs, and we would correlate them, the query URL tuples to the rating. So for instance, we might get a bunch of results, and the first result, let's say, leads to the internal search engine home, and this is the canonical result, and therefore you can see on the line after the internal search engine home that we give it a rating of 3. The next one may be also very relevant result, but it's not canonical, so we give it the rating of 2. And in some cases, maybe we might get some irrelevant result. We'll give it the rating of 0. Here you can see a snapshot of us executing the tool. You can see at the top it's making various queries to our search engine. And the tool will calculate the scores for each of these queries. We also obviously record the history or the score for each run. So you can see in the first run we established some baseline, and the following runs we are making some changes to the search engine and to the data, and hopefully improving our scores as we go. Obviously, this does not necessarily indicate that our search engine is great, but it shows us that we are improving. So we are also graphing some of that information. You may note that we also recording recall and precision. Now, as I've mentioned, for instance, with recall, you can see it's constantly going down. It's a little bit of a useless metric in our case because we don't really know how many results there are in the search engine data. And we calculate this based on the data that we keep on adding, that we know that is relevant. So it will go down consistently, but with precision, it's a bit of a better metric. We know whether the return result is relevant or not, and if it's completely irrelevant, then obviously we are able to know that. A better score would be the actual, or a better metric would be the actual score, which gives us a better idea if we're getting higher quality results bubbling up to the top. So that's kind of the basic idea, and so far it serves us fairly well. Yep, thank you. I don't know if you have any questions.
I'm curious to find out how you manage websites that have internal websites that have JavaScript. Do you use like a...
Yeah, at the moment we use Notch to crawl, and one of the plugins for Notch is that it is able to go through Selenium.
Through Selenium.
So
Okay.
Selenium. It's not a pretty setup, but it works. It does not work perfectly, unfortunately, because sometimes some of the links involve Java callbacks, and they're not like actual URL links. So we're not able to crawl these without implementing additional plugins within Natch. So we are looking at other tools which go directly to the database, such as Manifold CF, which is an Apache project. So going through the API as opposed to just scraping the data.
I've heard entertaining stories about people who have a wiki, and there are links for editing and for deleting a page, and so that after they've crawled all the links, the pages are deleted, and then there's nothing.
Yes, we are definitely very cautious about that not happening. Obviously, having a good service account that is
Right.
limited is very important. It still is a risk. So
Yeah. And your process is smart enough to be able to look at a page and say, this page hasn't changed, and then it skips over it?
Not just supposed to be smart enough to do it. It's supposed to be also looking at the headers
Right.
for if the page has changed. But of course, a lot of the systems that we are crawling do not return such headers.
Oh. So you have to basically ignore that header information and look at everything?
For certain targets, yes.
Yeah,
We use
okay.
multiple Natch instances to crawl. There's also adaptive scheduling in Natch, where supposedly, as you mentioned, if the page didn't change for a long time, it won't crawl it. But if we don't have that information, we really can't know and have to recrawl the page every time.
So this, when you're crawling, you're basically crawling all the sites that the entire company is able to look at.
Yes, all the internal sites, and we have hundreds, probably. It's a large organization.
Fantastic.
I have a good question. You said that early that you actually manually evaluate. So are you basically tapping into people's attempt to find things and then going and looking at a selection and rating them? Or?
Yeah, we also keep track of people's search history. So we know what people are searching for, and we kind of try to use that as our sample searches. But in order for us to evaluate the quality of the search, we have to manually make the search, look at the results, and then say how relevant those results are for the query that we're making. Of course, it's somewhat of a subjective process, but it's better than nothing for sure.
Yeah, very interesting. I don't know if there are any other questions from the people online. All right.
Okay, well, thank you very
I
much.
think that's everything. That's it. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Bye.